Now, this next video I want you to watch. I want you to realize that degeneration can steal life from you. It can kill your hope and it can destroy your dreams. But with Infiniti cells, you again can live and move and have your being.
What will your last 10 years look like? Will you be quick enough for a game of tag with your grandchild? Strong enough to embrace every moment? Will you grow old with vitality? Or get old with disease? It's time to decide.
That is such a powerful video, and it reminds me a lot of my own mom. You see, when she was younger, she suffered from polio, which created severe scoliosis. She did great through life because she was an athlete. But not too long ago, she was crippled because of the severity of her scoliosis and her degeneration that was pinching on her nerves. So much so that she was bedridden. She couldn't walk for more than, or sit for more than 5 minutes. And as a healthcare practitioner, I know that bedridden is the beginning of the end. Now, she went to her doctor and they did steroid injections, epidural ones, where they put her under and gave the injection into her spine, and they didn't work. She went to the surgeon who said she was too severe, who referred her to the deformity surgeon, who said she cannot survive the surgery. She would die. So through her tears, standing outside that doctor's office, she asked me, what am I going to do? And I said, Mom, you're going to try Infiniti cells. And I'm happy to report that just 3 short months later, I have videos of her dancing to music at Christmas. So she was on the wrong side of that video. She was going down that path where she would have had possibly destruction or death. And now I have my mom back. So I'd like you to consider, before you operate, before you medicate, like my sweet 80-year-old mom said, try regenerate. I want to welcome you tonight, and I believe that many of you believe like I do that your greatest wealth is your health. So I want to invite you to join what we call the healing revolution. You see, regenerative wellness and stem cell therapy is the wave of the future. And I'm here to tell you the future is here and the future is now. Many doctors agree that stem cell therapy is going to change the face of medicine. It's going to change how we look at problems. But one thing that holds true is it's not just about the future of medicine, but truly it's about the future of your personal health and longevity. The key to healthy life is healthy regeneration. And if you, like I do, want to be sure that you're able to spend time with your grandkids and run and play with them, go to a grocery store without pain or problems, and live younger and stronger for longer, then you're in the right place. You see, the problem is degeneration, or we like to say degeneration. And the definition is to deteriorate both physically or mentally, to go into disrepair, to fall apart, to break down, to be less than your former self. I know many of you are thinking, yes, that's me. That's what's happening. Time magazine did a cover story that said the secret killer was inflammation. And he said the surprising link between inflammation, heart attacks, cancer, Alzheimer's, and other diseases. How many have heard inflammation is this secret killer? And that's secondary to what? Degeneration. So if degeneration is the problem, what is the solution? That's correct. Regeneration. To build, grow, repair, or create new tissue. How amazing is that? Now, I believe that the power that created you can and will heal you. Regeneration is found all around us in nature. God made the trees to regenerate. God made animals to regenerate. And here's why, because regeneration and healing are actually encoded in your DNA. Your body was made to be able to repair itself because it was wonderfully and miraculously made. And that part of your body that does most of this repair is called stem cells. Now, in order for us to understand stem cells, I want you to understand what they do. You see, they are your body's own internal repair system. Now, this is important because they speak the language of your body. Your body communicates through signaling, and stem cells speak that language. They go where they need to go and become what they need to become. It's called paracrine signaling. So they're called to damage and inflammation. And as a result, we call them the master cells of the body because they can go where they need to go and become what they need to become. No matter what type of tissue, it recognizes when it's touching another cell what that cell is. So it can become a nerve, a muscle, a tendon, an organ, a neuron, an immune cell, whatever the body orchestrates or prioritizes that it needs to become, Infiniti cells can become that. Research continues to show increasing potential of the benefits of stem cell therapy. In order for you to know how stem cells work, or what they can help, you need to be able to speak their language. So I want to teach you what stem cells do. Number one, they seek out degeneration. So they're regenerative. They build, repair, and create new tissue. Number two, they're anti-inflammatory. So they're effective at reducing inflammation. And we already learned that inflammation is the silent killer. How many situations are we aware of that inflammation is at the root? And then third, they're immunomodulatory. So they help to optimize the immune system. And what that means is if there's a situation where the body is overactive, their immune system is attacking itself or overactive, it will tune that down. It will modulate it or balance it. And if the system is underactive and it needs to have help, like it's fighting off a virus or a bacteria or something like that, stem cells will increase that immune response. So it's a balancing mechanism. This is the language of stem cells. And this is very important that you understand because you're going to ask in regards to your friends, family, and loved ones, can Infiniti cell therapy help them? So a diagnosis is a human-made classification, or a disease is a human-made classification that has its roots in degeneration, inflammation, and immune dysfunction. I want you to understand that you are not your diagnosis. There's hope for healing. Stem cell therapy is not FDA approved to treat any disease, but stem cells don't understand that language. Stem cells understand the language of degeneration, inflammation, and immune dysfunction, and they have the ears to hear where the problems are, and they're able to go where they need to go and fix it. Medications don't have ears. They have a global effect, and they're always to replace function or cover it up. So don't allow yourself to be placed into a diagnosis when the roots of the language is degeneration, inflammation, and immune dysfunction. there's hope for healing. So if stem cells are so great, what is the problem? You see, they decrease and decline as we age. When we're born, 1 in 10,000 cells are stem cells. By the time we're finishing building our structure as a late teenager, 1 in 100,000 cells are stem cells. By the time we're 30, 1 in 250,000. By the time we're 50, 1 in 400,000. By the time we're 80, 1 in 2 million cells are stem cells. Now, does it make sense that as we age, we're more prone to diseases and infections, we repair more slowly, and we have significant problems? So I want to make stem cells simple. There's 5 types of stem cells, and they're not all equal. The 5 kinds are fetal or embryonic, amniotic, placental, autologous, which is from your own bone marrow or fat, and finally Infiniti cells derived from the human umbilical cord blood. Fetal or embryonics, illegal in the U.S. It's extremely controversial because it's using an aborted fetus or an aborted baby and that tissue. So we don't use that. It jeopardizes human life, and it had many, many issues. Illegal in the U.S., though. Number 2 is amniotic fluid. Now, this is what they get from the amniotic sac through a process called amniocentesis. And the problem is it has a large portion of cellular debris. And this thing called human leukocyte antigen, which can cause a rejection or immune response or an allergic reaction. There's an inconsistent concentration. There's so few cells that they can't even get a count on them, so it's unverifiable. It worked about 20% of the time, but you have these risks of rejection. The next kind was placental. It's very similar to amniotic. With the cellular debris, it has a potential of HLA rejection, and again, inconsistent concentration, unverifiable stem cell count. So it's not the best type to use. Autologous is your own. Now, we've eliminated the risk of rejection because this is from your bone marrow or your fat. But it does require a surgical procedure, which means there could be complications. It can be painful, and there's recovery time from the surgical procedure. Then, as we saw in that graph, they're not potent enough to sustain substantial differences because they're very dependent upon age and health. Do you remember? Our stem cell count decreases and declines as we age. So do you really want to have where you don't know the number of cells? They're old, less pristine, less active, when there's a better solution? The answer is no. Also, the expense on this, I have heard when this first started, $16,000 to $20,000. So then in comes human umbilical cord stem cells that we call Infiniti cells. Now, Infiniti cells are undifferentiated cells. There's no HLA matching or human leukocyte antigen matching necessary. Over 100,000 therapies delivered and not one rejection. What does this mean? No blood typing. Anybody can have it. Simple, fast, safe delivery through either intra-articular injections or the IV. So if you have a joint issue, it can go directly into the joint. Or if you have multiple issues or a nondescript location of an issue, then the cells can go into an IV, which I love because then we're going into the vascular system, and the blood system is what God designed to be the delivery system. Now, it's potent, robust, and consistent. Compared to all of the other types of cells, umbilical cord blood stem cells have millions and millions of cells that we see in the lab replicate every 28 hours. And that occurs for about 3 months. So what does that mean? If we start with millions of cells, every day or so they're doubling. So they go into your body. It's not just one injection, and that repair is what's going to happen, and then that volume decreases. Those cells are doubling every 28 hours or so. So what that means is the cells are able to conduct a massive deployment of repair mechanisms. And every day or so, you're getting a whole new, fresh deployment of new cells to do the work all over again. And this happens up to 3 months is what we see in the labs. Now, with patients, we have seen regenerative change stimulated and activated in the body up to 6 months with Infiniti therapy. Now, this is based on standard medical practices. The cells are delivered by trained medical professionals. So where do these cells come from? They are donated at birth, healthy mom, healthy baby, live birth, donated cells. And they are sent to FDA registered and regulated labs. Again, they are not an FDA approved procedure, but they do come from FDA registered and regulated labs. Now, what are the advantages of Infiniti cells? Anybody can receive them because they're what one author called immune privileged. Why? Because they do not elicit an inflammatory immune response. They don't have that HLA rejection. Remember, they're the best anti-inflammatory, immunomodulatory, and regenerative capacities in your body. They can be administered multiple times. My story and why I do what I do is I was in a car accident. I'm sure many of you out there have experienced that. Herniated discs in my back and my neck. It was a horrible injury. We got hit at 70 miles an hour. It was what the doctors would call a retirement level event. All the therapy, all the chiropractic, all the nutrition, all the rehab, all the electromedicine, all the things I knew to do, and it only got me 50%. And I said yes to Infiniti cell therapy. And I can tell you, within the next 2 months, the numbness and tingling went away in my hands. The pain in my arms went away. And then one day I felt a shift in my back as I know that disc regenerated, reset, and repaired. Now, how I received my cells for my low back herniation was in the muscle. So it was in deep IM injection. So these injections don't have to go directly into the spine. It went in the muscle on either side of my spine. Why don't they have to go into the disc, into the nerve space, or into the cord or any of those areas? And you don't have to be put under. Why is that? Well, because the cells go where they need to go and become what they need to become. So the medical team just needs to get them close, and they travel. Then I also receive some cells via IV to allow the body to be the author of priority. Now let's talk about some results and what people are saying. This is a client that received Infiniti cells. They had degeneration and meniscal tears. They were facing what's called a meniscotomy or an orthoscopic surgery, where they were going to go in and cut out that meniscal tear. Instead of surgery, they decided to try Infiniti therapy. And 90 days later, why 90 days? Because that's the replication cycle that we see, the regenerative cycle that we see, regeneration in the knee. I've been in practice for 26 years, and never once have I seen a meniscus regenerate until I saw Infiniti cell therapy. This is life-changing. So now we don't have to medicate and manage the decline until they say joint replacement. Now there's an option and an opportunity for regeneration. So some patients say, well, if it's bone on bone, I don't think it'll work. This client was scheduled for surgery. They're bone on bone in their meniscus. They received Infiniti cell therapy, and you can see on the x-ray on the right, regeneration. Now, this patient had enough regeneration, they canceled their surgery. They're able to live and move and have their being. They're able to walk and do what they need to do, and they were able to avoid an elective surgery that has a risk of death. So this was life-changing. This transformed this patient's life. This patient, an 82-year-old man named Paul, he had degeneration in his shoulder. Up on the top here on the x-ray, you can see there's jagged lines in his shoulder. And after 30 days only, he had such great results. We took x-rays. You can see the head of that humerus was reformed. But he had a side effect. He had a situation that was eating bone away in the shaft of his femur. His body knew that. The cells knew that. They had the ears to hear where the problem was, and the body said, build bone. And in 30 days, you can see that bone was rebuilt in this 82-year-old man. This is a patient that had spinal stenosis. She also was scheduled for surgery. This is an x-ray of her low back from the side, and she's in her 70s. There's supposed to be, where those arrows are pointing, disc space. So every level of her spine has degeneration, creating compression and neuropathy. She came shuffling in the office in a flex forward position. After 90 days, she's walking in, feeling much better. She stayed at 80% improvement, and she can walk through the grocery store without trouble. But look, regeneration of her discs. Again, until my therapy, until patients like this, never in my career did we see regeneration. So now there is an opportunity for you to regenerate instead of operate. Now, I want you to watch this video to see what other people are saying and see if this reminds you of yourself, a friend, a family, or a loved one.
I've seen it happen with my own eyes. There's virtually nothing that your body can't regenerate with a little help.
It did change my life completely.
I was a golf professional for about 15 years and really ruined my rotator cuff here. I have a full 90 degrees of motion.
After the stem cells, I'm not on anything. It's amazing.
It's been 2 years now, and I have absolutely no hip pain.
The testimonials come in so fast. The stories are so amazing that it's hard to keep up. It's hard to pick your favorite, because honestly, they're all my favorites.
No pain and a lot of hope.
It is the most simple thing that I have ever experienced. It is so incredible.
It has been life-changing for me to just try it. You have nothing to lose.
So if you're one of those people who need more research, I recommend you go to clinicaltrials.gov or pubmed.com and type in umbilical cord blood stem cells and look for the research that you need. Here is some areas that are already being studied: joint pain, back pain, bulging or herniated discs like I had, spinal cord injuries, meniscal tears, ACL, MCL tears, other knee injuries, osteoarthritis, hip and labral tears or degeneration, tendinitis. Look at this list. Now, I want you to understand stem cells don't treat disease, but this is a list of diagnoses or classifications of diseases. But if you look at this list, let's speak the language of stem cells and take something like cirrhosis, which is inflammation of the liver. So stem cells reduce inflammation, and the body orchestrates them to go to the liver. Can this patient have help? I believe the answer is yes. Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis is what that is, which is degeneration and inflammation of the colon. I have a patient that couldn't even work because his Crohn's disease was so severe, he couldn't leave his house because he had to go to the bathroom all the time. Within 5 weeks, he was back at work. Diabetes, is that not an autoimmune situation? Yes, it is. Fibromyalgia, global autoimmune degeneration, inflammation. lupus, autoimmune. So do you see a friend, family, or loved one on this list? Have they been identified as a diagnosis? And do you understand now that with Infiniti cell therapy, there is hope for them to regenerate and stop having them, I believe, waste their money on managing their decline with medications to cover it up that end up in surgery, and start investing in the incline? Now, some of the frequently asked questions are, is it safe and why? And the answer is yes. Infiniti cells are rigorously tested and screened under the guidelines of the National Institute of Health, the Food and Drug Administration, the American Association of Tissue Banks, and the American Association of Blood Banks. They meet and exceed all the current FDA guidelines, and it's a proven product with over 62,000 successful therapies across the country. Now, what is the cost? Before we go over this, I want you to understand the cost is not the risk of dying from a surgery. The cost is not taking 6 weeks off from work because you have your knee replaced. The cost is not having a failed surgery. The cost is a chance at regeneration. And it's typically less than most people's deductibles if they have insurance. Now, Infiniti cell therapy is not covered by Blue Cross Blue Shield or Medicare. But it's time, like I said, you invest in the future. Most patients are 1 or 2 cc's. What does that include is the consult, an examination, and the therapy, and they're going to follow up with you. The medical team will follow up with you once on 1 month, and at 3 months, and at 6 months to check and track your progress, and hopefully have you be the next testimony of success.